Brand new balance changes are shaking up the meta, and the nausea nerfs are finally here. Starting off with the buffs, we see 2 improvements to Lumi, a small health increase joined by a projectile speed increase. We also see a smaller change to Lola, taking away about 17% of her damage fall off on her super. Another small buff coming for Fang, a 600 HP increase. And don't worry, we're continuing with one-off buffs for random brawlers, one coming to Surge's charge rate increase of his super. Another single one coming in for Maisie, we see a 5% increase to her bonus damage from her star power. And our next buff is actually a revert of a previous nerf. It goes to Glowy. They previously nerfed his range by 20%, he's now getting 10% of that back. Then moving on to Draco, he's getting some much needed buffs, getting an increase in damage resistance and movement speed on his dragon, a random cooldown decrease for Jae Young, a surprisingly pretty hefty damage increase to Daryl's roll, which is super interesting, especially with Bolt coming out soon. Then we see 2 more buffs to Gigi. I don't know if they'll ever really be able to properly balance her, but maybe these will finally fix that issue. And our final buff goes to Grom, getting a 5% bonus damage increase on his star power. Now moving on to the nerfs, starting off with Leon, he is getting a pretty hefty health decrease and removing the ability to stack power-ups from his star power and gadget. We also see some really hefty nerfs to Ziggy, getting a projectile delay, which could really nerf him on his own. But on top of that, we also see a charge rate increase to his super and a gadget cooldown increase. I get that Ziggy was pretty good, but I don't know if they needed to nerf him this hard. And for some reason, we're nerfing Grom and taking away from his base damage as if he wasn't weak enough already. A 5% damage decrease to Mortis's gadget, followed up by 2 nerfs for Pierce, one to his super damage and one to his star power slowing percent. We see a pretty decent range nerf to Clancy, but he's already so good that this should actually be a good change. And the BB nerfs continue to come in, losing bonus damage and healing percentage from her power-ups. And yes, that finally brings us to the nausea nerfs. Starting off with her snake HP being reduced, as well as the snakes now only exploding when they actually hit an enemy. They'll no longer blow up onto feet. But the big one is that auto-aim is now cancelled in bushes when she cannot see the enemy. Definitely a necessary change that should actually provide Nausea to have a skill gap now.